Okay, so for responses, let's start by looking at redirecting. Now, obviously, when you're building an application, you're going to need to redirect depending on what you're doing. Maybe you are registering a user, maybe you're creating a topic, then you want to redirect off back to maybe a topic index to show that topic that's just been created, or redirect off to a particular topic. So really, it depends on what you are trying to do. So let's take a look at a very basic example. I've set up two different routes here. If we just head over to our routes file, I have a redirect page and I have a landing page just here. So the goal of this then is to redirect from here over to the landing page just to kind of ease us in to how we redirect. And then we're going to go ahead and look at redirecting with named routes as well, which is really important. So if we start out over on this example controller I've created, obviously we're talking about our response object. So why don't we just dive into this just to kind of see what kind of methods we have available. So if we come over to vendor, slim, and then over to our HTTP response object or class just here, there are lots of methods in here that you can kind of look through. So for example, we have with status, which we're going to be taking a look at. And we actually have, if we just take a look, with redirect. So what we can now do is using our response object, pass in a URL, pass in a status if we want to, and we'll be redirected. So to do this, we always want to return. So we want to actually return the response, then use with redirect, and then pass in a URL. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and grab the full path to where I want to go. And this is for landing, like so, and we're going to go ahead and check this out. So when I come over to this redirect page, we're redirected over to landing, and that is as simple as it gets. Now the only problem here is that we are of course using our full URL in here, and we don't really want to do that, giving in our domain, giving in the full path to our project. We kind of want this to be automatically generated for us. Now what I'm going to do is just take a look back over, if we just come over to our Bootstrap app file. Remember when we set up Twig earlier? Inside of Twig, what we can do, if we just come over to say our resources and views, if we just come over to an example here, remember we could use inside of here the path for helper, and then maybe I could say landing. And if I were to set a name for this landing page like so set name to landing, then of course this would generate a path directly to that route for me. And if I had any parameters I needed to pass in, I could pass them in as well. Well, what we can actually do is we can redirect to a named route. Now this is slightly different because what we need to do is we need to generate this at the same time as returning our response. So we'll keep our response open just here and we'll dive into more of the slim code in just a minute. So what we want then is to redirect here to this named landing route without having to give the full URL to this. So let's start by saying return response with redirect, like so. And we know that we have our container available as part of all of our controllers now. Or if you're just within a route closure, if you're just defining out all of your routes with callbacks, then you know that you can use this and then any item in your container. Now, because over in our, if we just take another look at here, over in our Twig extension, we're passing through container router. So this gives us kind of a good idea of how that path for works. So let's open this Twig extension and take a look. So we're passing our router in, and then in here, what we're doing is for the path for helper function, we're saying this router path for name, passing in any data, and then any query parameters. So kind of putting this all together and diving into the Slim source code, we know that what we should be able to do is in here, say this container router, and then in here, say path for, which is a method on the router object. And again, if we just open up vendor, slim, and then open up the router class, we have path for just there. So really it's about kind of exploring the source code and putting these together. But what we can now do is we can redirect to landing, which remember we gave a name just over here. So this is going to work in exactly the same way, but we're redirecting off to a named route. Even if we update the URL in future, this will still work. So let's come over to our redirect page again, where we start, and like magic, we're redirected over as normal. So again, if, for example, we were to update this to landing page in the future, it doesn't matter because we're using our name for our route and we're just redirected off to that new URL. So what you're always going to want to do when you're redirecting is always use path 4. Whether you're in a route closure or whether you're in a controller, always use this because it's going to save you a lot of time and hassle in the future if you ever update your URLs. And also it will work cross-domain as well because you're not defining out any of your domain information inside of here when you're actually redirecting. Now, of course, just as another quick example, let's say, for example, that this landing page here was showing a topic that you just posted. And for example, this might be to actually store a topic. So let's just change these over. I'm going to change this to store and I'm going to change this to show. And this here will bring in an argument and be responsible for showing topic. So in this case, I'm going to say show topic and I'm going to say args 0, or in this case, it would be something like args ID. And let me just pull this out of here instead of doing that within the double quotes, just to make things a little bit clearer. So what we want to do is just update our routes just to kind of demonstrate this. Over in here, I'm going to change this to store and I'm going to change this to show. This is going to be using a store method. This is going to be show. So this we may set a name to. So this might be topics.store and this might be topics.show. So we store a topic in the database and then we redirect to that topic. This, of course, will be some kind of ID, like so. So in actual fact, what we could do is we could say topics here and topics ID here. And if we just come over to here, we would go ahead and store a topic. And then we would redirect to path 4 topics.show, passing in the ID of the topic that we'd just created. And that would then subsequently redirect to show, extract the argument, and it would show the topic just in here. So assuming I just switched everything out, okay, let's go over to /topics, and of course, so must be the type of array, integer given. In here, we need to explicitly define the ID like so. Give that a refresh, and we're redirected over to show topics 5. So we post a topic, we grab its ID, we redirect over to the ID of the topic that we just created in the database. So again, using all of this is very, very powerful. It's very clean. You don't need to define your domain in here. You don't need to define the path to your project, and it will just work wherever you happen to be hosting or using your project.